what I think I'm going to do now is, in this space here, I think I'm going to I'm going to cut some foam, because what I've noticed is that the fan sits in there, but as you can see, let's see, I don't know if you can see that curvature on that wood block is not exactly the curvature of the JetFan. It's a little bit wider, which makes sense. So what I'm going to need to do is create a cradle that fits this curvature exactly down here, and that way I'll be sure when I install this that when it sits here, it sits level, so that the center of the motor actually points to the center of the exit hole right here, because I don't want the motor sort of sitting at an angle either down like this or up or sideways. You want it pointing straight up. Foam lying around, and I cut this notch obviously because of the spinner. So what I'm gonna do is stick that in there. Now you can see that piece of foam I'm going to trace around the back here, and then we'll cut that piece of foam, and then we'll insert that into this spot right here, so that the motor sits properly and facing, properly oriented in there. All right, so we're back. So here's a piece of foam that I cut, and this will allow the motor to be cradled really nicely in here, so that when it sits in the slot, we have more surface area supporting that, and this is going to really grab the motor tight. So I'll mount it in the space, and I'll show you exactly what that fit looks like. So you can see the piece of foam mounted in there, and if you look closely, see if I can zoom the camera here, you'll see that there's just a little bit of foam sticking above the wood here, on both sides, and that's going to allow the motor to be cradled nicely in that spot. So I'll put the motor on there and give you the shot in a second. Okay, so I just put my JetFan on there, and as you can see, I pushed it somewhat further back so we can actually take a look at what this fit looks like. You can see right there that piece of foam is really gonna cradle this and hold it in place. As I push the motor down, you can see the foam sort of grabbing onto the motor, and I can actually leave the motor in there, and the grab from the foam keeps it in place. So that's quick update. In order to fit my JetFan, which is this guy in here, I had to cut back my rails, so you can see sort of what it used to look like initially. I guess ignore that's the notch that I made, but you can see what it used to look like and what I trimmed off. So basically what I'm going to do is copy that cut onto the other mounting rail, make sure it fits, and then just grind it away. So this way the nose, the cone for the motor, which is this guy, which I 3D printed, will be able to fit in here, otherwise it's too narrow. A shot of the complete product. This is what the rods look like once I've trimmed them back. So I'm going to put the motor in there and give you a shot of that next. So the motor is in there, and that's what it looks like. You can see the edges here cut just enough so that my motor with the shroud will fit. And as you can see, I like my wiring clean, so I encased my wires in snakeskin. That just keeps them together and tight, and makes it easy to put it in here. So you can see what that looks like. Just really nice and clean. I really like my wiring to be clean. What I decided to do is use hot glue on this guy. And the reason I like hot glue, let's see if I can get that to focus, is because I can move it around along the edge really nicely. Hot glue will adhere really well to wood and foam. And the best part is when I want to remove it, if I ever want to remove it, I just put some IPA or denatured alcohol, and that peels real cleanly off. So I'm going to put some hot glue and get this done. The first side is done. I would repeat the same on the other side, and the mounting rods are going to be done. So what I decided to do was make my own thrust tube. That's easy to do. It's just 7 mil, not millimeters, mylar that I got from Amazon, and I just cut it so that my FSA is about right what I want it to be. So the exit diameter here is about 95 millimeters, and I just taped it using blender or hinge tape to the motor, and that's the tape line. You wouldn't be able to see this once it's in the jet because it's gonna go in with this side being on the top, so that's clean. And then I made a hole and then just used a rubber grommet to sort of seal the air in there, and I'm gonna put some hot glue, and so that's gonna be a nice seal. What I'm using this standard set that I got from Amazon. It comes in an assortment of 180 pieces, and if you open this guy, I just grabbed one of these, and that was it. Okay, so here's a finished product. Just hot glue. I love this stuff. Like I said, if I ever want to remove this, little squirt of rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol or denatured alcohol on there, and that'll peel off right off the plastic. And so I ran into a little bit of an issue here. This bulkhead was just a little too tight to fit the thrust tube with the FSA that I wanted. So I just took my Dremel and widened that a little bit, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 5 millimeters around, and that should be enough room for my thrust tube to get through. The thrust tube fits pretty perfectly in there, and I'm excited. I have a little bit of excess, so this is where the fuse ends, and we have a little bit of excess, so I'm going to trim that and we'll be good to go. I'm going to add the mounting for the JetFan so it actually secures to the rails. And so to do this, what I like to do is, like I've done here, mount the motor, make sure the thrust tube is what I want, and then I'll measure, I'll put the carbon fiber pieces that attach the motor to the rails and glue them in place. That way I know that my alignment is exactly what I want it to be. Motor's looking good. So as you can see, I glued the JetFan motor securing carbon fiber pieces on. So that would be those guys. And basically how I did that was fairly easy. I put the motor in place with the thrust tube, obviously, made sure that everything was pointing the way I would like it to, and then just put those guys, drop them in there. I had to Dremel the side of the mounting rod a little bit so the mounts will fit, and you can see that there. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah, you can see that the rail has been cut back a little bit, but that was necessary to allow that to fit. And now all I need to do is then drill my holes, and that can be secured, and I'll be done. So motor, nice snake skin, keep things in tight. Stick this in here carefully. Okay, and just like that, the motor's in. Here's a shot of the mounting screws in position, and the motor is mounted. That is complete. You can see the screws there securing it down, and I'm pretty happy. So that looks good. Okay, so to make the hatch fit, I had to cut a little bit off so you can see. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. There we go. You can see the hatch used to go up to here, and I took about, you know, half a centimeter off or so, evenly across, and then I had to sort of carve into the foam. So as you can see, the hatch closes really nicely, pretty even, doesn't bulge or anything in the center, so I'm very happy with how the motor went in. Inside the plane, that is sort of what the fitment of the motor looks like. I'm pretty happy with that. But like I said, around the corners, around the edges of the EDF, so that would be around here and right around here, I'm going to add some pieces of foam so that the air coming in can only be pulled from the front, from this direction into the fan and not from the back. Okay folks, so I was able to get the foam to adhere to the shape of the fan. Let's see if we can show that on camera here. You can see that it seals pretty good. It's not glued in right now, but I will glue it, and that will seal the extra pieces on the side there. So checking the seal with the foam bits in place, kind of hatch still looks nice and clean on the top. One last shot at how the sealing looks. Pretty good. I like the way it bound there on the edges, nice and tight. And once the hatch is on, hatch sits right on top of here and closes in tight, so that's good. So I'm happy with the result. The goal is just to minimize how much air comes from the exhaust side of the EDF and maximize how much air comes from the front of the EDF. And I think these blocks of foam will do just that. So, one more thing. The ESC plate provided by the plane is this piece of wood. I took it off. You can see right here. And instead, what I'm going to use is this piece of wood. And the reason for that is I'm going to be using this ESC. And so I wanted it screwed down in place as opposed to held together by a zip tie. So with that plate in position, the ESC can get screwed down nice, and that's gonna go and be positioned right in here. Let's see if I can put it. So I'm gonna glue that plate down sort of like that, and my ESC is going to mount on top of that with screws. So nice clean installation. I still have access to the wires coming from the wing in there. So this is nice and clean, screws, no zip tie. I can be sure this thing will hold down, and it's just clean enough for me, at least in my opinion. And so now what I'm going to do is screw the ESC in place, and for that I'm going to be using this screw set. It's got like a whole bunch of screws in there. I'm going to be using that guy, which looks like this. And this is just a screw set that I got from Amazon. You can get them, they're fairly affordable. And so we'll just put 4 of these screws into the corners. I pre-drilled holes on the plate that I showed earlier. And so this is gonna be a fairly clean build. Yep, so you can see the screws, 1, 2, and obviously there's 2 in the front as well. And that ESC is gonna be nicely secured. This plate has a whole lot of hot glue underneath it, so it's not going anywhere. And I like this. So ESC is in the airflow path, coming from the intakes and right in front of the motor. So that's really good. Okay, so motor mounting is complete. We have mounted the ESC. Let me see if I can get the camera closer. We have mounted the ESC and it's screwed in place, as you can see. Nice and clean installation. The cable wires also pretty clean, and the motor, I showed that already. So what I'm gonna do is just check for rotation now, and we're gonna call that good. Okay, so here comes the motor. We just plugged it in. Oh yeah. Okay. Looks like my motor is correctly installed, direction's correct, so I just put a success to test it, but that is good. We're gonna call it quits for now, and next time we'll be looking at this jet. Hopefully electronics will be done. Thanks for watching, guys.